is Mary Collins from C.H.A.N.G.E Hypnotherapy, and I have the absolute pleasure to have Wendy Dooner on with me today. Hi, Wendy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Mary. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm quite excited, I'm going to be honest.
I am so excited as well, because forever I've been talking to people about wanting to speak to a herbalist and a shaman. So I'm just going to give everyone a little introduction about you so that they can understand what I'm talking about. So Wendy Dooner is a Scottish medical herbalist and shamanic practitioner. She is passionate about reconnecting people with their innate healing wisdom of nature and their bodies. Wendy graduated from the university in 2005 with a degree in herbal medicine and a more recent 3-year advanced shamanic practitioner qualification. She introduces her clients to the world where plants are people. They are teachers, guides, allies, and elders. She believes every plant has a story to tell and a lesson to impart. It is her mission to facilitate these transformative relationships between nature and the individual. At the heart of Wendy's practice is her profound connection with her native medicinal plants, and she believes that these plants hold the answers to many of our modern ailments. So Wendy, as I was saying earlier, I'm so excited to talk to you because I think now that we should never have lost connection to natural remedies. Mm-hmm. However, with sort of ailing world as we age, but yet like there just seems to be more and more problems with people. And it's just nice to know that some of the older ways actually are the most efficient instead of all these sort of pharmaceuticals that can do a lot of damage. So with that, let me just get straight to it. Tell me how you got into the world of herbalism and shamanism.
Sure. That's a really good place to start, because for me, it's really 2 parts, and it actually really describes my life to this point. I'll keep it brief. So when I was a little girl, I was always a caring person. I loved to look after my family, my friends, and that has never stopped. And I wanted to train as a nurse. So when it came time to choose what I wanted to do as a career, I was going to do nursing. But my mum and dad, my background's a little unconventional. I was raised a little differently from most, and they said, look, nursing's a bit mainstream. How about you think about this course that's just opened up? It's a herbal medicine degree. And I was 18 and I was in a deep trying to please my parents phase. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. I had no idea, Mary, what herbal medicine was. Mm-hmm. I'd always loved plants, but it never called to me in the way it does some people. And so I did this degree. I did really well at it. It was a 4-year Bachelor of Science in Edinburgh. And it was pathophysiology and it was plant constituents. And I'm a deep nerd. I love science. So I really thrived in this course. Mm-hmm. So I graduated, I opened my own clinic. And then over the next, maybe 10-ish years, I was practicing as a herbalist. I was seeing clients. And then I moved to Australia. Met my husband, moved to Australia. Did a little bit of practicing over there, but the laws are a little bit different, so I had to do it in a slightly different way. And then it came a point, my dad had passed away, maybe 2014, and it was just an awakening year for me. It was like, I had all the hallmarks of traditional success, married, children, career, house, car, but there was just something in me that was missing. I was like, there's got to be something more than this, surely. And it was this sort of it was almost a quiet mental health breakdown. I was so disassociated at that point, I didn't realise that was what was happening. Anyway, moved back to Scotland, and my older sister was training in something called shamanism. Now, at that point, I didn't even know how to pronounce it, Mary. I'd never heard of it. I was like, what's this shaman? How do we even pronounce it? And it made me both mad and curious, and I always follow, when I get angry about something, I always follow the path, because I'm like, there's something for me to learn here. It's frustrating, but as frustrating as it is, if something really annoys me, I'd just like to check why that is. It's often because it's an unmet need or desire in me. So I woke up this morning in 2018 and I thought, literally it was like this. I had no thought prior. I woke up this morning, I've got to study this course. And so I started the 3-year practitioner training with a wonderful practitioner called Carol Day. And then here we are. So I graduated, and what she teaches is creative shamanism. So she teaches the fundamentals of how to be a shaman, but she also teaches you how to make it your own, how to merge it with your own existing practices if you have them. And so that's what my path has been since 2018, is I thought they were going to be separate. I thought it was going to be a herbalist and a shamanic practitioner, but as it's happened, they'll just kind of almost hold themselves together. I haven't really done anything except for stay open to stuff when it comes up. So the herbs and the shamanism, I feel like have
Makes sense.
It's like, yeah. So that was a story, like real hardcore science, herbal medicine. Eschewed anything spiritual. I wasn't interested, Mary. I was like, if I can't touch it, if I can't learn about the pathophysiology, I'm not interested. Because it was like in a rebellion against the spiritual upbringing that I had. Right. And then the plants called me back. Like there was a literal calling back of the plants. So that's how I got to this point.
And so that is something that I would like to sort of really define, because when people think of herbalists, some people like probably think marijuana and they don't know what that is. And when people think of shamanism, once again, that's very confusing as well. So how would you define the two different things? So herbalism, just to explain to the audience, what is it?
Yeah. Okay. So herbalism is simply using herbs to treat mostly chronic illness. Okay, and that illness can be a physical illness. It can be an issue with your emotional health or your mental health. Mm-hmm. That's the key three areas that herbs work in. Shamanism treats spiritual causes of illness. The shaman, I guess, I don't know if it's the right time to go into it, but the shaman, I chose shamanism, the word shamanism, but you can use any entry point to this. Some people might say witch, or some people might say green medicine wise woman, or the Kurindarismo, or even in Scotland we've got things like you might be a cunning folk, or a spay wife, or a hen wife. There's really cool words, but there's nobody knows about them, not heard about them. So shamanism is a really useful way for me to describe how we work with the spirit medicine of plants for healing. Yeah. And I just want to touch back on, you mentioned briefly about people thinking about herbs, shamanism, and like marijuana, or even like mind-altering substances. Yeah. Because I think that they do get closely allied, shamanism and like your ayahuasca ceremonies. And they've got a really important part to play. But for me, I don't work with any hallucinogenic plants. As a professional person, I have worked with them personally in the past. But as a professional practitioner, I work with herbs that are non-hallucinogenic and that grow mostly around me, with very powerful results, might I add. So yeah, I hope that was clear.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned your native plants, especially. So when I think of Scotland, I think of like thistle, which I do know of. That thistle milk, I think, was from my grandfather, who was a chief medical officer. He used a lot of old-fashioned, because he was like born in 1876 and lived until the 1970s. I mean, he lived for a long time. And even then, medicine was, you became a doctor, but you were a dentist and a doctor. So you had like all of these skill sets. And when he went to University of Aberdeen, Scotland, actually, and then went on to Liverpool, and then from Liverpool, Harvard. So he had a lot of the formal training, but he also learned from going to the Caribbean. He learned about the natural remedies that people recommended. And he learned how to grow penicillin, like in the back garden, and different things like this, and using garlic for worms. And I remember like one of the ones that I still to this day use, and then I found out that it's in a nursery rhyme, is brown paper and vinegar. And this is where, if you fall down, you hurt your ankle, you hurt your wrist or whatever, you take the brown paper, you soak it in vinegar, you wrap that, and it insulates it and it pulls the heat out. And it was the same thing for like, if you got like sea urchin stings, you would use that vinegar, or you'd use urine because it has ammonia in it. All of these things that seem like very old fashioned, but in actual fact, they find now work,
They have a basis in science. Yeah,
exactly. That's it. And that's the thing that I really want people to be clear about, is that like with hypnotherapy, they kind of think it's like voodoo. And I'm like, actually, no, it's not. It's science. It's just the the power of your subconscious. And there are neurotransmitters throughout the body, including in our stomach, more in our stomach than anywhere in the body. And all of this is connected to our subconscious because that's what runs us.
Yes.
And that's why also with the shamanism, once again, people might think, oh, what's that about? Is that kind of voodoo? But I think once again, it's the calling of the subconscious. It's like you said, the spirit, the subconscious, whatever people want to call it. It is still scientifically in some ways backed because we can see changes, at least with hypnotherapy, you can see in an MRI scan, you can see the changes in the subconscious and how it affects the blood pressure, how it affects blood flow, pain relief, all these things. So the point is that back to the native things, like in Scotland, what are the sort of herbs that you're using that you're finding useful, and what are they used for?
You know, this question, I almost feel like it's trying to name your favorite child. Like, of course, I love all my kids equally, but they're all different. They all have different personalities, and you know, some are better in certain environments than others, and herbs are no different. And thinking about the herbs that I really like to work with are the herbs that I can see growing around me. I'm just going to take it back slightly, because when I was at university, we were trained in what herbs to work with, but we were never taught how to go out and recognize them,
right?
How to see them growing, how to be like, oh, that's yarrow, like confidently. You can see it a million paces, that's yarrow, or that's elder, and I really felt that was a missing piece for my practice as a herbalist. And so I've been almost not retraining, that's not quite the right word, but I've been adding on to my training, going out and seeing what's around me. So for instance, just looking at my window, I can see hawthorn. Okay, I live at the bottom of a tract, I've got hawthorn trees. Now hawthorn grows pretty much everywhere, but they are also native to this country. So hawthorn is probably one of my favourite herbs at the moment, for many different reasons. So I work with hawthorn in the physical sense for people who have anxiety, but the physical symptoms of anxiety, so palpitations, or I've actually can feel them right now. I'm feeling a bit nervous, like sweaty palms, elevated heartbeat. We would hawthorn for that.
Yeah.
You know, the more sort of spiritual medicine of hawthorn is so rich, but basically they help you to be here now. So if you're somebody who tends to racing with your thoughts forward, like that anxiety type forecasting, I will always recommend something like hawthorn to bring you back to this moment. We work with the flowers, the berries. You can eat the leaf in spring. It's a haven for many other beings, like insects and those sorts of things. So I love hawthorn. What else have I been working with? Yarrow probably is another.
Right, I know about yarrow. I mean, that's one for pain reduction, for example.
Yes. Yarrow, do you know, I find that the plants have all opened me up in different ways. So yarrow, it's the Latin name is Achillea milfolium. So Achillea is named for the Greek god, that warrior, not the Greek god, the warrior, Achilles.
Yeah.
And it tells us something about the strength and courage of this plant. Okay, it also tells us it can help us to find and support the weakness in us, like our Achilles heel, for want of a better word. So yarrow grows around me. It's beautiful. I use it as a first aid plant. So the little leaves, you can use them fresh or dried for bleeding. Like you're out and about, you get a cut. I've not found anything works better. The flowers, digestive health, heavy periods. So it's like a polypharmacy.
Right.
But in my life, kind of what's happened with the yarrow is that it's provided me this courage to move forward and to speak my own truth.
Okay. So with that, is that because you're taking it like as a tea, or you're wearing it? I mean, that's the thing with these herbs, because you're dealing with the shamanistic side of it as well. From what I would know from my own ancestry, Native American in my ancestry, I do believe that they actually wore pouches of things, you know, around their necks and stuff, and like sage, for example. And yeah, so I'm super fascinated. I was going to say one thing is that, of course, there were lots of issues that came up, I think even in the UK, where they're like, you know, St. John's wort was taken off the shelves. In the US, it's almost impossible to find a lot of natural herbs. It's quite difficult to find colloidal silver or iodine or any of these things because the pharmaceutical companies want to control everything.
Yeah, there's no money in wellness, right?
Right, exactly. And there's a lot of scaremongering. And I imagine, like with anything, I think if somebody could sit and have too much milk and die. I think if you drink too much water, you can actually
exactly
drown.
Oxygen.
Right, you know, so it's this kind of thing. But the identification of plants, I think this is why it's so important that you are so well trained, because I know there's a million courses. I've got one sitting on my computer where it's like, be a herbalist. And I have all these books, but it is actually quite terrifying when you see how closely death coming quickly looks to an elderflower.
Yeah.
It's like the same bundle of white flowers.
Yes.
And so I think this is why it's so important to really be properly trained. And like you said, it's one thing to look in a book and another thing to actually go out and identify it again and again and again, and then figure out all the different uses. Because some of these things, I think yarrow included, it is a little bit, is it like a poison if you take it in the wrong way?
Yarrow's actually a pretty safe plant to take. You want to be careful with yarrow if you're on blood thinning medication. But generally speaking, it's quite well tolerated. But for the untrained eye, it does look a little bit like the carrot family, which contains really poisonous members like water hemlock.
Really?
Yeah.
The carrot family.
The carrot family have really, really toxic, poisonous. I can't quite think of the right word, but basically eat them and die.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So you brought up two things there, Mary. You brought up, like, do I have to work with yarrow? Do I have to ingest it? And the answer to that is you don't, actually. It's really interesting, the parallels between cultures, because in Celtic culture in Scotland, we would also wear the herbs on our body in little pouches, we'd put them under a pillow, we'd sew them into the lining of our jacket, we'd make these things called little posies, which is basically a little miniature bouquet that you would attach to your body, and you work with the medicine that way. And connect with the medicine through smoke cleansing. In Scotland, we call it C.H.A.N.G.E. And it's a different way to access the medicine. We know when we burn a herb, it has an immediate, when you smell it, it has an immediate impact on your olfactory nerve, which goes to your brain, which impacts your emotions, your mental state. I connect with herbs in dream time. I go on traditional shamanic journeys to meet the spirit of the herbs. And each way that you connect with a herb in a different sort of way brings in medicine. It's just like that real holistic process that you go through of getting to know a herb. It's kind of like getting to know a friend. Like, you don't just always meet up with them in a cafe and have a coffee. You might go on a hike with them, you get to know them better. You might have to help each other through difficult times and you get to know them better. And it's those parallels that I draw with herbs. So I love that you have that in your culture, that they're wearing the herbs on your body.
Well, it's weird, like you say, that it just pulls you. I feel like for people who aren't pulled to natural remedies, their soul's asleep or something's going on, you know, like they're blocked. Because I remember even wandering, we were going out for a walk. It was in England, actually, and it was to some big park. And on the bus there, the whole side of my face swole up because I'm finding myself very sensitive to these products that are supposed to be natural, like Lush. And it turns out that I have reactions to everything. And so I had put something on that was a conditioner in my hair or something, and the whole side of my face swole up, my ear swole up. And I just got to the forest and I grabbed a nettle, which stings like, and my partner's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, but I feel like this has to be what and I took that nettle and I put it on my face, and the swelling my hand hurt, but the swelling in my face immediately went down. And then I looked into it and I found out that nettle is used as an anti-inflammatory.
It is, and an anti-allergy. It's wonderful for allergic reactions.
So, you know, isn't that it's counterintuitive, because you think it's going to sting you, but then in actual fact, and it's full of vitamins. This is another reason why I think that what you do is so important, because so many people in the West, especially with all of our modern technology and all of our, you know, at reach supermarkets and everything, they are starving. So we're eating, but we're actually starving. And it's because we're not taking the natural herbs and the natural foods that we should be taking, like nettle, which is full of vitamin D, dandelion, full of vitamins. And so, yeah, it's just kind of crazy to me that it's taken so long for humanity to come back full circle to natural remedies for things. So speaking of which, though, we still have to kind of tippy-toe around the subject matter of what's safe and what's not, and why it's so important to not just take a class, that there's no teacher, there's just like an online thing. That might be very helpful. I think it is really important. So tell me a little bit more about how you're talking about the shamanic. I'm jumping around. Sorry about this.
It's okay. I think this is
I'm so excited by you. So tell me some more about the shamanic, how you sort of reach out to the plant. Like, what happens? What's the process?
Okay, that's a really good question. And do you know what? You actually mentioned a key part of it. You mentioned being called, like it's just this. You were called by nettle. You weren't really sure why, but you're enough in connection with your intuition that you were like, oh, I'm going to follow that. And I should say that everybody experiences connection with plant in their own way. This is the way that I experience it, and the way that I teach is I let people experience it in their own way. We're all slightly different depending on what your primary senses are. And so for me, there's a few different ways to connect shamanically. Number one is I will always start by asking permission. So if I'm out walking, which is often, it's just a plant will appear where maybe I've passed by it like 100 times before. I've never noticed it. And for some reason on that day, maybe the way the sun's shining on it, it just attracts me. And I'm like, oh, nice. And if I don't know what the plant is, I'll go, really nice to meet you. And I go into this, it's just it's probably similar to hypnosis, but you go into this altered state where your brain is more open. And I'll just say, hi, my name is Wendy. I'll introduce myself out loud or in my head if I'm surrounded by people. Nice to meet you. If I don't know what they are, I will take a picture, I will draw it, and I will go home, and then I'll identify it. And from there, I will then work out, is this a safe herb to take internally? Or do I have to work with it in a different way that doesn't involve me ingesting the medicine or putting it on my skin? And so if it's safe to work with shamanically, if it's safe to work with herbally, then I'll go, okay, I'll go back and I'll ask the plant. I'll just say, show me how I can work with you. And I will sit in a quiet meditative space and I will wait for the answer. And for me, I'm very visual, Mary. I'll get images. The plant will show me maybe making tea or me lying in a bath, infusing it. So it'll show me exactly how I can work with the plant. And for somebody who's perhaps more auditory, they'll be like, you'll hear, oh, you can work in this way. For some people who are more in tune with that, like just that felt sense, they might feel in the body how the plant was working. So that's one key way that I do kind of on the ground working with the plant. The other way that I will connect shamanically is I will go on what we call a traditional shamanic journey. So if a plant calls me out in the wild, or I'll see it, a picture of it somewhere, or somebody will mention it lots of times, or like this morning, this is probably oversharing, I was sitting on the toilet looking out the window and I see this willow tree that's suddenly just gone high enough, because the bathroom's on the second floor, to see the willow catkins just blowing in the wind. And the day prior, somebody else had given me a bit of information about willow, and willow's not a plant with a lot, but I'm always looking out for these like signs, and I'm like, oh, hey willow, all right, I got you. I'm gonna connect and see what messages you have. So what I'll do in that case is the traditional shamanic journey will involve using usually an instrument to get you into that suggestive state. So for me, I've got like a number of different things. I've got like, rattles, I've got a drum, I've got bells, but it's just to get to a trance-like state. So I'll use my drum. And then in Celtic culture, now what's interesting is the cultures throughout the world, they all have their own maps, their own shamanic map. So you know where you're going. But in my culture, we use the lower, the middle, and the upper world. And you can get the soul essence of anything in the lower world. That's where you get the real essential nature. So I will go on a shamanic journey. I'll be drumming. And imagination is important in this. Imagination is kind of the way that metaphor gets transformed into meaning. And so I will go down, and it's literally like sitting in a coffee shop. You'll be sitting and you'll meet this being, and they turn up in a number of different ways. Sometimes they look like the plant, sometimes they look human form, sometimes you could just hear them and not see them. It's different for each person. And I'll sit and I will talk to them, and I will say, you know, again, thank you for showing up. What do you need me to know at this time? How can I work with you? What can I do for you? Because it's a reciprocal relationship. It's not just me, like, I'm putting this in quotes, you using them. I don't even like to use that word anymore. And then once I've got all the information that the plant wants to give me, I will then journey back to this world and I will write it down. I will corroborate it with, if they've told me to use it for a specific health issue, I will then go and make sure that that's correct. I will look in go through my brain, I'll go through my books. So there's a step-by-step process that I go to make sure that the information I'm getting is safe, basically.
Well, this is it. And if someone was listening and said, "Oh, well, that just sounds nonsense," well, then the point is, though, when you do that, you can then, like you said, you check your book, and there it is. It's exactly like what with the nettle. I just put it on my face. I knew what it was going to do. I felt what it was going to do, and then later on I checked. And I mean, of course, we're not advising that people just go out and randomly eat plants. Because that could be your shamanic or your intuitive, but it could also be just your brain telling you silly things. So it is important. We do generally crave for what we're missing in our diets. So it is natural, but then a lot of herbs look very similar. And that's where it's so important to have someone like Wendy training you, because you can think that it's one thing and it's something else. So it's very important to have that kind of proper training from a proper science, you know, as it were, a scientist who has the botanic experience to help people process these things. And when you were saying about the connection with plants, you know, people think plants I use in my hypnotherapy always plants. For me, they are the symbol of stillness and at the same time connection. Because they're finding out more and more now, like, you know, that trees, their roots run miles sometimes under the ground. They make connections for hundreds of miles. They make these connections, and there's scientific names for this, but I'll write a blog about it when I remember. And they can tell when there's storms coming. They can tell when there's a drought hundreds of miles away. They can tell if there's earthquakes, and they can actually respond to that and change their environment in the sense that they can hold on to their energy. That's when you have like an autumn where the leaves turn colors. It prepares just as well. So people think, oh, it's just a tree, it can't do anything, it's not moving. And yet it's doing everything. And now they are finding with vibrational studies and with heat and color studies that they're seeing plants responding, like when it's being eaten. It's responding and it's showing distress. It releases more it will actually, some plants will release more nutrition into a leaf in order for the bug to eat just that leaf and leave the rest of the plant alone. So these are intelligent beings, even though they don't have the traditional brain. You know, they are actually very sentient, intelligent beings. And we do have a connection, I do believe. I mean, if you look at our lungs, it looks like a tree. Right. You know, there's all parts of our body looks like a part of nature. So we should definitely embrace what's being given to us. And
because we are nature, right? Because we are.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, even when it comes down to the animal kingdom, it's the same sort of thing. I have that with animals, like where I can sort of hear and sense them from, and I come upon them when they need me, you know? So I understand 100% that connection that you have with plants. I just wish I had that with plants. I do kind of, but I'm also attracted to dangerous things.
You sound like my younger sister. My younger sister has that connection with animals where, you know, if an animal is in distress, Jane will find that animal will find Jane. So I really get that. You mentioned something and I wanted to cycle back round to it. What did you mention? Oh, you were mentioning the science behind this spirituality that we're talking about, and that's kind of what I teach about. Because when we're talking about the shamanic journey, some people think that we are traveling into other worlds that we can't see, that are beyond this tangible reality. And other people think that we are accessing information that's stored in our subconscious. We just can't get there. Likewise, when we, in shamanic terms, we work with spirit guides, some people think it's part of our psyche that is showing up, and other people think that they're separate to us. And for me, the definition is not important. The end result is so important. I've seen time and time again this transformative potential when you connect with whatever your way in is, whether it is through the scientific study or through the deep magic. It's, for me, just a different path up the same mountain.
Exactly. And so, speaking of what you teach, tell us a little bit more about what you teach, because I know you have courses and workbooks, and yes, tell us.
So teaching is my passion. I do a few one-to-ones where I work with people on specific health issues, but what I'm really excited about is connecting people with their own innate sense of nature. So you were talking about how you connect with animals. I teach people how to connect with plants. The people that come and see me are those people who it already shows up for them. They already maybe have a yearning, or just plants bring them joy in some way. And I run mainly short 6-week courses. And in the courses, people learn how to both identify the plants safely, how to make the herbal medicines for themselves and their family. They learn about their health, their own body. They connect with their body wisdom, because their body knows how to heal.
Yes.
You just need to give it the right, right? You just need to give it the right environment. You need to take them from fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system, to parasympathetic rest, right? So we learn about that. And then we learn about how can we connect with the plant in a shamanic way. And there's different ways to do that, and I teach that safely. But more importantly, what I teach about is direct revelation. Like, every plant has a certain set of medicines that we all know that it's used for, but for each person that will show up differently. And that's what this course really supports. I'll just use an example. We at each workshop we always do a sensory tea ceremony, and that involves connecting with the taste, the smell, the feel, everything of the herb as it passes through your body. And on the weekend, I was working with hawthorn, and I wrote this down because I thought, this is such a great description of why shamanic herbalism is all about direct revelation. It's about me helping a person to find out what those plants mean for them. So I had a person with hypermobility issues. And for her, the taste came through as this really sticky, like holding, like strengthening. And I was just encouraged, I was like, just sit with that, just track that through your body. How are you feeling that? And she felt stronger and more upright. And that was the medicine of hawthorn, which is collagen stabilizing. Okay.
Wow.
Another lady, she was burnt out, Mary. She was exhausted. And hawthorn helps to support a shift in the vagus nerve function and the rest and digest, so you can sleep and you can rest. And after the ceremony, she slept for hours. And then
I'm going to take your course and learn how to use it.
Right. And then another person who was really struggling to stay in the moment and stay present, for her experience was she sat and looked at birds and didn't move for 15 minutes. And she's like, Wendy, I've never been able to do that before. And I was like, yes, that is the medicine of hawthorn for you. Hawthorn helps you to be here now.
Yeah.
And if you'd read about hawthorn in a book, you would never have gotten that felt sense of learning. And that's what I teach about. When you really are deep in learning like this, you remember, because it's fun, because honestly, herbs can be a bit boring. Like when you're learning about the constituents and you're learning about the dosages, it's dry. Right, so how do I make this fun? How do I make this a personal journey? So that's a really long way of telling you what I teach.
No, and I love watching you on Instagram. So we'll have to give everyone your Instagram page, because you do put little things together on Instagram. When it comes to the courses, is this an in-person course, or is there anything that can be done online? How does that work?
All of my teaching is online.
Okay.
I have COVID to thank for that, because prior to COVID, as a herbalist, you couldn't teach online, you couldn't hold consultations online, but now, the insurance has changed, so now I'm insured to both treat and teach online. So something really positive has come out of that. So all of my courses are online. I have, at the moment, my current cohort, I have women from Canada, from North America, from the UK, from Australia, all over the world.
And so, and speaking of which, I know that, of course, women, because we're more inclined to want to get back to our intuitive senses. I actually created a book with Becky Hemsley called Intuitive Healing that I use on my retreat. So I think we'd have to have you on the next one with me, because this is what I keep saying to people. Like, I'd like to go and wander around and figure out what plants there are. There's lots of asparagus in the south of France, for example, but I wouldn't have it. Like, for me, it takes forever to see something like that. You know, like, I guess I'm more audio than I am visual. Yeah. But do you ever get guys on your courses as well, or is it just mostly women?
No, rarely. And it's not that I don't welcome men, but I think they really hit on it. Like, women, because of our very nature, we have this yearning to return to intuition. And I think the women that come on my course are women of a certain age. We're like late 30s onwards. We're starting to get into perimenopause. We're starting to question everything that life is. We're really looking for support, and the plants are that support. The plants are those elders in a culture where there aren't many women ahead of us being like, hey, do you know, I know that what you're going through is shit, but hold on, this is normal, this is how you can help yourself. And that's what I really see the role of the plants being for women. And whilst men are absolutely welcome, the women that I mainly treat and support are those perimenopausal women who there's not really much for. We kind of get a bit forgotten. We don't.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a space for us.
Can I just deal with? Yeah, we just have to deal with it. And also, even younger women, I really think that there is a desperate need. I don't know how many younger women I have talked to recently in their 20s who have all been advised to have surgery for endometriosis.
Oh man,
like, that is insane.
That's so strange.
Because the amount of infections that are caused by surgery, telling young girls now to just go right out and have this surgery. And I'm just like, God, it's insane, when it can be definitely helped with herbal remedies.
Yeah. Do you know, that's super interesting. Like, I do support a lot of younger women with endometriosis, with adenomyosis.
Okay.
And you know, there's something about, it's really funny you should bring this up. It's not really funny, it's one of these things in life, right? You should bring it up. But like, the women as young as like 18 are being recommended to have the wounds removed. And I think if possible, I get pain. Like, I have my own version of pain in my life, and I get the how chronically awful it can be. But I think when we look at the spiritual nature of these female issues, it's like we no longer know our place in the world. Our wombs no longer can hold the womb tissue in the womb. And it's not a failing on women or men. It's just how culture is now. It's sort of like, how can we take back our place in the world? We're not talking about putting anybody else down. Because all of us suffer under patriarchy, men as well. I mean, there are benefits to men for sure, but nobody thrives under this system. And so it's
right. The system is pure pressure. You know, I think we've been kind of hoodwinked, because now it's like, be the mother, be the best employee, be the best parent, be the best lover, and come home and clean.
It's just not achievable. It's completely not achievable.
It's ridiculous. And
it really feeds into what we're talking about, you know, with the female health issues. That's basically who I treat, because one of the biggest drivers on a physical level of female health issues, of really terrible perimenopause and menopause, terrible periods, is a dysregulated stress response. It's your HPA axis, you know, the hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals that control your stress response. When your body starts to change from your hormones being produced in your ovaries, then your adrenals take over when you start to get older. But if your adrenals are too busy dealing with the stress response, they can't make the small amount of female hormones that they're meant to make to take you smoothly-ish through perimenopause. And so what I find is two things will happen when I start to support women with herbs, not just spiritually, but like mentally, emotionally, is if they are in early menopause, perimenopause, the symptoms will actually rewind. It's actually a stress response issue, okay? If they are truly in perimenopause, the symptoms will lessen. They'll still be there. Of course, it's a whole remodeling from top to toe. Like, it's no small thing. But we're not taught this. We're just not taught this. The doctors don't get training on it.
No. Well, they give you drugs.
Yeah.
That cause more problems. Like the pill.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew from actually it was in Scotland where they gave me an injection of the pill, which is in your arm for 3 months. And I went from fairly fit and thin to swollen. My whole body was swollen and I was so emotional. And I thought I was losing my mind. And then I finally said to the doctor, does this pill affect your emotions and your weight? And he's like, oh yeah, it does. And I was like, wow, thanks for telling me that before I did that.
Exactly. Do you know,
that's part of the problem. But, you know, speaking of herbal remedies, so would you be able to like help people with thyroid, like Hashimoto's and
yes, the same driver of perimenopause issues. It's HPA axis dysfunction. It's like they're so interrelated. The autoimmune conditions with thyroid, particularly,
right?
Like, the link is so strong, and I've found that when we start to support how that part of your body works, how your stress response system works, when we start to support your nervous system, along with other things, you know, that I say that this is only one piece of the treatment pie, and you'll do the same. You know, you might need to also get hypnosis, you might need to get talking therapy, you might need to get body-based therapy. You know, how are your boundaries and do you have joy and meaning in your life? So it's all pieces of the pie.
Right.
But absolutely, like, herbs are wonderful at supporting thyroid. One way or the other, whether it's Hashimoto's or Graves or some thyroid stuff.
Well, this is another reason why I think just taking your course is so excellent, because even if it's a curiosity of natural remedies or it's dealing with issues that you have yourself, and I think even for training your own children, it's such a great idea, you know, the people around you, because it's something as simple as going out in the kids camping and getting a nasty cut and knowing what they can put on that cut to kind of clean it out and heal it up quickly. How is that going to be of any harm? That's only good intentions and it serves a very, very good purpose as well. So with your course, tell us a little bit more. How can someone join this course or get private treatment or whatever it is that you offer? What is the Instagram page again?
I wrote it down because I can never remember. It's Wendy.Shamanic Herbalist.
Okay, and we will put this in the link and we'll put this in the blog as well. And so you have Instagram, and where else can we find
you can also find me on my website, www.wendydooner.com. And so in there I do these 6-week courses 4 times a year. There's 15 people on the course, so it's small group size. We do one-to-ones beforehand to work out, because each person comes with their own intention. That informs the whole course. Some women have a specific health issue they want to really work on. Some others women are like, I would love to foster more of a connection with plant spirits, or I want to really open my intuition. So it's also very personalised. And there's a wait list will be opening shortly for my next course, which is in May.
Okay.
My one-to-ones are currently booked out. I don't have any more spots at the moment, but usually around about May, the next intake will come in. And just, I think I didn't quite answer this, but it's just on my mind. But we're talking about like safety in herbal medicine and identifying plants. There's a few steps that I can encourage people to do to make it safer for them. So number one is finding a foraging course where you are and work out what you can eat, but also work out where you live, what are the toxic poisonous things, right? That's so important, because then you're like, oh, I'm not curious about that anymore. I know exactly what that is, and I'm not even going to go near it. So you know what the toxic lookalikes are. And then I always recommend get a good field guide. Like I've got the, this might be backwards actually. Yeah, it's backwards.
Flowers. Okay.
Basically, any of the Collins guides, COLLINS, nature guides, take that.
After my name, Collins, yes.
Oh, good. So, you know, you're in good.
It's professional.
And they will help you to identify the plants. Then you'll get a good plant ID app. They are third down the list. You don't know, I knows, honestly, Mary, the amount of times that I've had a plant app misidentify a plant.
Right. So what do you recommend? Is there any that you recommend that are good? Because you're correct about that. I found ones that I was like about to make elderflower, and it turned out it was not elderflower. It was death come quickly. So
two, let me remember. So one I use myself. It's actually on my phone here. It's, where are you? Picture picture, Picture this, picture this. I love that.
Okay.
The other good app is PlantNet, and the A in PlantNet is the same symbol as the @ symbol, PlantNet.
Okay, definitely we'll add these. You'll send them to me, and we'll add this in a blog to go with the
I'm happy to actually type
yeah,
in.
perfect.
And then there's another website, it's the Royal Horticultural Society. They've got so much information on how to safely identify plants.
Okay.
And what I recommend is you don't go to identify to pick to start with. You just go for pleasure and to work out. And I'll tell you what, when you identify your first thing correctly, it's so exciting. It brings joy, right? And it's that really important piece of the pie of health, which is joy. And all these neurotransmitters getting to boost your serotonin and your dopamine.
Yes, exactly. And with your courses, do you also go into the sort of distilling to make like essential oils and stuff like this? Or is that?
Essential oils is like quite an advanced technique. It's not something I don't actually work with many essential oils. I just work with the whole plant. So they won't learn that. But what you learn on my course is how to make tinctures, which is the alcoholic extract, or the glycerite, which is a glycerin extract, how to make decoctions and infusions, how to make like smoke cleansing bundles. You might make smudging bundles. I don't call it that because that's specific to the Native American people. What else do you learn? How to make essences.
Sorry, say that again.
And how to make flower essences. So it's a number of different things. Yeah.
Okay. And also some great tips that you've given us. Protection from the shamanic or from the herbalist. Are there certain herbs that do I have to find out how to ask the herbs and where would I put it on my body? What's the?
Oh, it's really one of my favorite questions. So there's a couple of things here. So as a shamanic practitioner, I work with a tool called a body protector. Okay.
Okay.
So a body protector is like an energetic filter. It protects you from, it's not a block, it doesn't stop you from having meaningful connection, but what it does do is help you from being drained or taking stuff on that's not yours.
Yeah, I need that.
And that happens to the best of us, we're human. And so you would work with a shamanic practitioner to find your bodyguard, your body protector. Mine is a heron and it's on me all the time.
Oh, interesting.
I do sort of certain things like preening. Other people have, they'll see colours or they might have a cloak. Everybody's body protector is different, and we go on a journey to meet your body protector, and then you have a relationship, not with them, basically. They're like your friend and your bodyguard. They walk by your side. And for me, that was so transformative because when we do one-to-ones in the past, it could be really draining, right?
Right.
You're tired at the end of a day, a clinical day, especially like you if you're dealing with really hard things like cancer or even end of life care. How do we protect ourselves? So the body protector, that was transformative and I learned that through my teacher. And then in terms of herbs that are really great at protecting, I've mentioned one today, but yarrow. And you can connect with that bodyguard yarrow in a few different ways. You can do the traditional pouch on your body, smoke cleanse. So what that means is you get some of the yarrow. I've got, this is my watch, not actually yarrow, just in a little shell or a little container, and you're literally just lighting it on fire, and you can see the smoke, and as the smoke covers your body, you're just inviting yarrow to protect you, and you can say something like, yarrow, thank you for your force field of protection. So you're saying it as it's already there. And what other herbs of rosemary, beautifully protecting. It kind of is like, I imagine it if you're like an empath, you're easily overstimulated working with rosemary, so you can drink the tea, you can wear the essential oil, particularly back of your neck.
Okay, that's where I do get a lot of can feel it afterwards.
Interesting, the back of your neck, that's like the psychic back door.
Ah, wow. Interesting.
So probably my favourite are yarrow and rosemary.
Okay.
Hawthorn as well. Because I don't know if you've seen hawthorn growing, but it's got those big spines.
I know, yeah.
That's my boundary. Like nobody's trespassing here unless you invite them. So
I definitely have to go out and see if I can find some hawthorn. I don't know if where I am at the minute has anything like that, but I will definitely look. And do you talk about some of the shamanistic? You obviously do in the course as well.
Yes, we learn about. Well, you meet your spirit ally. Your plant ally, which is basically like a spirit guide. They act in a similar way to the body protector. They're your mentor. your guide, your protector.
Okay, excellent. I'm really excited about finding out more about your course. And, anyone who's interested, of course, it'll be on the timefforchange.info. We will have a blog about Wendy, and we will have her website, wendydooner.com. Yes, as well. And anyone who's interested in signing up, I guess now is the time to get on that waiting list, because it is just around the corner and there's only a limited space. And that limited space is just 15 people that are talking to you and it's like more of a personal thing, isn't it? Because you just have a small group.
It's all live. It's none of it. You're not left to do anything on your own. It's not a buy it once and you're left to do the course, because you never complete those.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I've had 2 of them on my laptop now, on 2 different laptops, and never got around to it because it's just not the same, is it? Do you need a book for your course, or are there any books that you sort of recommend that you?
Oh, I've got a recommended reading list, but you don't have to. All of the information that you need, you get from me.
Okay.
All of the guides to preparations. You get what we call herb monographs, which is basically just a detailed collection of information on each herb. So everything you need, you get.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, Wendy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you more often about your wonderful experience as a shamanic practitioner and a herbalist. Thank you.
Thank you. I love this conversation, Mary.
Me too.